Hey guys, Eva Thompson here. Welcome to my channel today. I want to talk to you guys today about retroactive jealousy and toxic relationships. So, unfortunately, RJ can lead to breakups a lot of the time. If you don't get it under control, it can lead to your partner getting hurt, it can lead to resentment building in the relationship. And I want to talk to you today about how to avoid making the relationship toxic when you suffer from retroactive jealousy, and how to stop feeling like you're crazy, like you're an awful person, like you're a sexist, all of these things, because it's important to remember that although this is something that you do suffer with, it's not your choice. And there's a very fine line between taking responsibility for your behaviors and past traumas and insecurities and fears, and also obviously not using RJ as an excuse to hurt your partner and either feel superior or not commit, whatever it is that you're dealing with right now. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Before we do, I want to ask you guys to please subscribe to my channel if you are new. It would really help me out, and like this video as well. It will help more and more people figure out what retroactive jealousy even is, because like you maybe already know, retroactive jealousy is not something that is very well known in society. People have it and think that they're going crazy. They think there's something majorly wrong with them. And even the fact, even finding out that someone else is going through what you're going through can help immensely. So help me spread the word regarding retroactive jealousy, because today might be the day that someone finds out that this is actually a condition, and that alone brings massive relief. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first, I think it's important to get into why retroactive jealousy can turn a relationship toxic. When you suffer from RJ and you get intrusive thoughts and mental movies and all of these intense emotions, it can cause you to start arguments with your partner. For some people, they feel the need to shame and blame their partner. I see this a little bit more with men than women. Some people feel they need to ask questions, to stalk the ex's social media, and this can become an issue in the relationship, especially if you are prone to starting arguments and asking questions, because a lot of the time the partner is supportive. So your partner, maybe they know that you have RJ, maybe they don't, but most of the time they're very supportive. However, if over a long period of time you continue asking questions, similar questions, or even the same questions, then you're insinuating that the other person is a liar. Because if you believed them, then you wouldn't keep asking the same questions or similar questions. And so resentment will begin to build, as well as, if you start arguments or blame and shame the partner, it's very likely that the partner, even though they want to be supportive, and maybe initially they were very supportive or they tried to be, anyone would eventually feel that they have to give up, because it does become abusive and it does become toxic. And many people do argue that retroactive jealousy sufferers can become abusive, which is true. However, what's important is to understand that this is not your choice. This is not because you're a bad person. You didn't choose RJ, you didn't choose this condition. And you do have a choice to put an end to it, or to at least gain some sort of control over it so it doesn't sabotage your relationship and your happiness anymore. So obviously, not asking questions is something that I would recommend. I think, the first thing that comes up when you Google RJ is that advice is don't ask questions, don't feed into the compulsions. So like I briefly mentioned before, some of the compulsions can be asking questions, arguing, stalking social media, going onto groups and forums and kind of ranting, giving people details about your partner's past, and asking either on Google or just, on different forums, is this normal? What does this mean? Etc. Now, I think these are the most common compulsions when it comes to RJ. And what happens is your mind convinces you when you get triggered that the only way to feel better, to get that relief, is by acting out a compulsion. But as you may or may not know by now, that is temporary. You'll ask the question, you'll start the argument, you'll act out the compulsion, whatever it is that you do. You'll feel better for a bit, but then it will come back. And so when you feed into that compulsion, you strengthen the retroactive jealousy, because you're kind of sending a signal to your mind that the thoughts and the fears that you have are almost real, they're important, you need to do something about them. And the thoughts are very emotionally charged, and I've talked about this in other videos. I would recommend you checking it out. It's very interesting to learn about how the only reason thoughts stick and keep coming back and become intrusive thoughts is because they have some sort of emotion attached to them. So they're emotionally charged thoughts. So whether you feel anxious when you get triggered, or sad, or embarrassed, or disgusted, or ashamed, or all of the above, and you act out compulsions, you're strengthening the RJ, because you're sending a signal that these thoughts are important enough for me to have to do something about them. So refraining from acting out the compulsions is the first thing I would recommend. The second thing that I want to point out is, especially if you're feeling shameful, if you're feeling a bit like a demon or a really bad person because you have this, it is completely understandable, especially because people that don't have RJ or have never experienced it can't really wrap their head around it. They can't understand it, and so a lot of the time you'll be told things like, just get over it, the past is the past, there's nothing to worry about, what's wrong with you. And what happens is retroactive jealousy is something that you might have right now, but the pressure that you're putting on yourself and the shame and the blame and the guilt is making it worse, not better. And I've actually made a video talking about this, how no one has ever overcome RJ by making themselves feel like crap. No one has ever overcome RJ by pressuring, overthinking, manipulating, judging their way out of this. It's impossible. The only way through is to look at what you're projecting onto your partner, what you're projecting onto the past, what are the maybe past traumas, subconscious beliefs, fears, insecurities, what is actually going on here. Which brings me to my point where I want to point out that you're not a bad person. You just are in pain. A part of you is in pain. This is not something that you want to do. This doesn't mean that you should be the victim and just sit back and be like, oh, well, I have this RJ and therefore I'm going to act really mean towards my partner and I'm going to make the relationship toxic and that's okay. No, there's a very fine line between realizing it's not your choice, it is because a part of you is in pain and something needs to be looked at, but also take that responsibility. And it takes courage to take responsibility, become aware that it is a you issue and not a them issue, which again, it's a very fine line, because if you're in a relationship with someone that has lied to you or that is lying to you, that's not going to help the retroactive jealousy. If you're with someone that doesn't make you feel like you're good enough and you have doubts regarding, trust and stuff, maybe because of something that they did or they're doing still, again, it's a very fine line. You can't put the blame only on one person, which is why I prefer to work with people one-on-one, because there's so many different case scenarios, and I try to cover them all in a video so no one feels left out, but it's kind of impossible because every relationship is different, every human being is different. But generally, to sum it up, the retroactive jealousy is the symptom. So everyone that has RJ has very similar symptoms or the same symptoms. So intrusive thoughts about your partner's past, mental movies, very strong emotions, maybe asking questions or feeling really shameful and embarrassed and not asking questions, Googling, everything that I talked about before. That's the symptom. The root cause for everyone is different. It does boil down to, okay, what am I projecting onto my partner's past? Because the partner's past is not inherently a problem. You've made it your problem. Unwillingly, of course, not because you want to. It's not a conscious choice. But it's not inherently a problem. And you've made it your problem because of, what you're projecting onto their past and onto the relationship. What I'd recommend is to do a little bit of soul searching regarding why the past bothers you and what it has to do with you. Because another, it's pretty blunt, but though your partner's past has got nothing to do with you, absolutely nothing, and you're making it about yourself. Why? What has it got to do with you? And to be honest, it's got nothing to do with your partner either, because they're a completely different person as well. So asking yourself, what is the meaning that I've attached to my partner's past? And I've made it so much about myself and my relationship. Is it fear of maybe not being special enough, or not being the best, or fear of trusting somebody, or, you know, it's so many different things come up. But a good way to do this is to write down the meaning that you could attach to these thoughts. Because what happens is, it doesn't happen automatically, although it feels like it. You don't get the thought and then you feel anxious and you feel helpless. That's what happens, but it happens so quickly. If you dissect that and you split it up into, okay, well, what's really happening here? So you have a thought, okay? It could be any thought. Say you've got a thought about your partner's past that has an emotion attached to it. So say it's got anxiety attached to it. You feel really anxious. And ask yourself, what is the meaning that you've attached to this thought that you're getting that is causing the anxiety? Writing this down is easier than just thinking about it, because subconsciously things will come up easier when you maybe put things on paper, not on your phone or on your laptop, on paper. So basically what I want to say in this video is, if you're an RJ sufferer, you're not alone, you're not a bad person, and you can get better. There's two types of RJ sufferers that I've come across in my 2 years of doing this. The first type is someone that is having intrusive thoughts, mental movies, they're having horrible thoughts about their partner, degrading thoughts, objectifying them, telling them that they're less than. But the individual that is experiencing this feels very strongly and is very passionate about change. So they're not just sitting there saying, oh, it's my RJ, and, well, it's just too bad that this is happening to me. Maybe they are less than because they did this. They're actually very, very passionate about wanting to change. So people that come to me and say, I don't want to be this way anymore. I don't want to be the kind of guy that thinks like this. I don't want to be the kind of woman that is insecure like this and thinks that I'm not enough, or, has all of these insecurities. That is a wasp. A wasp flew in through the window. What was I saying? Yes, so that's the first type of person. The person that experiences the retroactive jealousy, experiences the disgusting thoughts and the intrusive thoughts and the all of these things, but they are passionate about changing. They feel very strongly about, I don't want to be this way, I don't want to be this kind of person, I want to change. And that, honestly, that is the first step. That is the most basic step, and it sounds so simple, but there's other people out there that will experience these thoughts and these feelings and this, they might be abusive, they might start arguments, they might shame and blame their partner and ask a lot of questions. But that passion, that strong will to, I want to change, I don't want to be this way anymore, is not so much there. And as a therapist, I do choose to work with people that are very, very passionate about changing, because if you're very passionate about changing and you don't want to be this way and you feel deep down, this is not me, this is not who I want to be, honestly, that's the first step to healing and to getting over this. So in this video, I wanted to just talk about how retroactive jealousy is misunderstood by a lot of people because they don't have it, they don't understand it. You might feel crazy, you might feel stupid, you might be pressuring yourself to get over this quickly, which is just causing the opposite to happen. And asking questions and acting out all these compulsions can make the relationship quite toxic. So refrain from doing that. There are videos that I have made regarding how to not act out compulsions, how the mind likes what's familiar, how it's connected it to pleasure. Temporary relief is pleasure, because your mind likes what's familiar and it likes to move you towards pleasure and away from pain. I'll link that video actually down below. I'd really recommend checking it out. But today I just wanted to show some support and let you know that you're not alone, let you know that you're not necessarily a bad, horrible, abusive person if you have this, especially if you feel passionately about not wanting to be this way. If you want to change, then there is hope. There are a lot of people that have overcome this, even though it might feel a bit impossible right now. There are ways. I've got a lot of videos on how there's a lot of great content out there about how to overcome RJ. I also offer therapy, one-on-one sessions, if you want to dive in a bit deeper into the root of it. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please, again, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're new. If you've got any ideas about videos that you want to see in the future, feel free to let them, put your ideas down in the comment section below. But yeah, take care. Thank you for listening, and I will see you soon.